all. Welcome to Bar Time Stories. The first round is on me. For my first episode, I wanted to take it back to the last year I was in Denver, Colorado with the good folks at Stranahan's for their Cask Thief event. And while I was out there, I got to hang out with their Master Distiller, Rob Dietrich. Rob talked to me a little bit about Cask Thief and Snowflake, which are two of his pet projects. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about Cask Thief, and we're out here this weekend for Cask Thief. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind that.
So Cask Thief is where I've hand-selected 6 different barrels that we will offer up to the public. They'll come into the distillery. We'll pull, with a whiskey thief, we'll pull it right out of the barrel, put it right into the glass at cask strength. Very unique barrels that I've gone through the barrel house and selected just by taste. And really kind of where that the inspiration came from that was the way I build Snowflake, which is my specialty cask finish release I do once a year at the distillery. And that, we release that called Snowflake, and that's, release that in December. And what I do is I will cask finish whiskey in different wine barrels and then marry those different flavor profiles together by nose and taste and create a unique profile every year. And this was kind of an example of how I do that. So you get to try this barrel over here and this barrel over here and this barrel over here, and if you can imagine those flavors, nosing and tasting, that you might be creating your own in-house marriage of those barrels. And so I wanted to give people kind of an insight on how my process is for making Snowflake, and just give them a little taste of some cask strength stuff.
Okay. In Snowflake's in its third year, and you guys are already sold out. It's a phenomenon. So tell me a little bit about what that feels like to see people kind of enjoying the product and kind of being able to come into the distillery and take part in that way.
Yeah. Cask Strength is, Cask Thief is in its third year, and it's just the first year was. Well, we just had the idea, and we'll see what happens, see how many people show up. Around 350 people showed up, so it was a success. And then we're like, all right, well, let's up the game a little bit. And so we're kind of keeping that same base. 6 barrels, just because it is cask strength whiskey. We don't want people drinking too much. Mm-hmm. That's why we have a passport. You can stamp the passport. So when you get your dram from that barrel, we have to stamp your passport. That way we're regulating how much people are drinking, because it is high altitude. Mm-hmm. It's hot. It's summertime. Right. We want people to to be safe. But we also want them to enjoy themselves, so that's why it's always just 6 barrels. And this is our third year, and we're already sold out. The tickets are sold out, so it's going to be around 700 people.
Okay. And you mentioned Snowflake earlier. You told a great story yesterday at the distillery about how the Snowflake phenomenon has evolved and how you have people camping out. Tell me a little bit about that, and again, what that means to you as the distiller, as the person who came up with this concept, and having people share your juice in that way.
Yeah, it's been pretty extraordinary. When we first started out, we were just trying some experimental things. So we were taking our whiskey that had been already aged in white American oak barrels, and for no less than 2 years, maybe it might be 3 years, and we'll transfer it into used wine barrels. So it could be a Cab Franc or a port barrel or a Muscat barrel or Cab Franc or Madeira. And so those create different finishes. So the very first 3 Snowflakes were released at the same time, and that was a Cab Franc barrel, a Hungarian white oak barrel, and a port barrel. And those were just cask finishes, around 260 bottles each barrel. And it just kind of slowly started catching on as we were doing different cask finishes. People would start showing up. We'd have a busier day in the gift shop. And then really when it kind of shifted and changed is when I started taking the different cask finishes we had and starting to marry them together. So I said, I was taking like a Tempranillo and a Cab Franc and a Malbec, and I'll make a batch out of that. And so the first ones, were really only like maybe 350 bottles or 500 bottles, and then we started getting busier and busier. People started getting, and we started seeing they were lining up in front of the gift store sooner and sooner, and then it turned into a full-blown phenomenon where the first guy was getting in line and camping out the night before. He just set up his tent on the sidewalk and camp out. And then more people started following him. And then it just turned into this thing. So in order to ensure that you were going to get your hands on 2 bottles of Snowflake, we only sell it at the distillery. Mm-hmm. We release it one day out of the year, first Saturday of December. And the first people started getting in line and staying overnight on Friday, and then it's turned into Thursday. This last year, 2017, the first guys got in line on Wednesday at 5:30 in the morning. Drove in from Wisconsin, set up a tent on the sidewalk. Last part of November.
Since then, Rob has moved on to now be the Master Distiller at Blackened whiskey, which many of you know is the whiskey that Metallica has created. Rob is following in the footsteps of Whistle Pig Master Distiller Dave Pickerel, who unfortunately passed away last year. I caught up with Rob at Bar Convent Brooklyn to talk about Blackened, Stranahan's, and where he's going next. Take a listen. First off, congrats on the new role. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
It was, in a way, kind of a sad beginning, just with the passing of Dave Pickerel, who's obviously a legendary distiller and has created quite the whiskey legacy. I spoke with the sales director. I think shortly after that, he contacted me and just said, "Hey, we kind of consider you the rock and roll distiller,
of course,
and we really think you'd be a perfect fit for this. Are you interested?" And I said, "I'd love to definitely talk to you about it." I was really excited. I'm a Metallica fan, and my seventh grade self is doing backflips. And it was really kind of a long process. A few interviews. They were interviewing quite a few other distillers, and but really, it just seemed like the perfect fit for everyone. We all, it was pretty exciting.
Okay. And did you know Dave personally, or tell me a little bit about that passing of the baton, if you will? And like I said, it's a sad situation, but what is that like to inherit this brand and this juice?
Well, I'm definitely humbled and honored. I mean, that's again, he's a legend. I did know Dave. I didn't, I wouldn't consider like friends. We're more acquaintances. We'd see each other at events. Like Whiskey Fest or Whiskey X or wherever. We'd see each other all over the country, and so it was always a mutual hello, hang out for a little while. So never really got to spend a lot of time with him, but I certainly have been following his career from afar. Just as a distiller growing within the industry. I started in 2006, and you're always looking at the people who are kind of pioneering these new ways and different methods and innovations, and then getting the opportunity to create my own innovations along the way. It's been so exciting.
So tell me about that. About now that you've inherited Blackened, it is now your baby. Where do you see it going? What's the immediate future, and what's the and if you have a vision long term, where do you see it going from here?
For me, I feel that it's important to continue to uphold the quality and consistency of the whiskey that that Dave created, and he did that as a collaboration with the band, and it was something that I feel that I will continue to maintain that, but also get to create some new expressions and some fun innovations of my own that my head's just kind of burst up the seams. Like, I got all these great ideas. But it was really fascinating just to see what Dave created and using the sonic enhancement and things that I really were as a whiskey nerd. You're questioning everything and you're always looking at the science behind something. And that was one of my first questions when I started being interviewed for this. Was my first question was like, all right, tell me about the sonic enhancement. Does it actually work, or is it just more like fun for the band to like play music at the barrels? And in short, it works. I mean, it's not only does it work, but they're actually patenting the process because it is a process that actually does change the flavor profile of the whiskey.
And have you been a part of the sonic enhancement yet? Is that something that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So I just I've been with the company for about a month now, but with Stranahan's for 12 plus years, and then jumping into this in the deep end of the pool, so to speak. So I'm heading up to Vermont this week to put my wrap my head around operations and what the process is that they've got going on there. I've got compiling my list of questions.
Now, will you pull double duty and do both Stranahan's and Blackened, or are you focusing all your intentions on Blackened?
Everything's on Blackened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So unfortunately, I did have to leave Stranahan's in order to take up the mantle of Blackened. Stranahan's will always be my first love, and I absolutely love that. I love the whiskey. I love everything about having really helped build that brand into where it is today, and I will always be grateful for that. But as far as moving forward, I'm 100% part of the Metallica family and creating Blackened.
And you talked about experimentation, obviously, between Cask Thief and Snowflake. You are known for experimenting with different barrels, different chars. You said you have some ideas. Is there anything you can tell us about what you, long-term, some of those experiments, some of those things you've thought of for Blackened?
Nothing to really say out loud right now, but it's I definitely have some really fun creations. That's the main focus is to keep Blackened, maintain that quality and consistency. But the stuff I've got floating around in my little recipe book, I've got some pretty fun ideas.
So the motorcycle and the sidecar are heading to Vermont, full stop.
I could actually be based out of Denver for right now.
Nice. Okay.
So I've actually built a lab at my house, so I can do a lot of blending there. Get samples sent out to a local distillery there.
Okay.
So we're complying with all regulations. But it is. I'll be spending a lot of time back and forth to Vermont and then San Francisco, which is where the band is headquartered. And so Denver's kind of a good central location between.
And having been a Metallica fan, what is you got the news, you get the gig. What was if you did this? What's the first song? What's the first song that came to mind? First album? What is the Metallica memory for you, maybe?
The first thing I talked to James about this when I was interviewing James Hetfield.
Yeah.
And it was the first album I ever heard was I heard Master of Puppets was the first song, and I was just like, what is this? It was pretty mind blowing at the time, and I was just an instant fan. And so I think that was kind of probably, I don't know. I took a little road trip down when I did the interview with the band. I rented a car in Portland, Oregon, and drove down the coast on Highway 1 all the way to San Francisco. So I had 3 or 4 days of just meandering down the coast and wrapping my mind around okay, if this happens, this is going to be life changing. This is going to be so exciting. So I had my Spotify on. So I just I listened to every Metallica album I could throw on the Spotify going down the coast. It was really kind of setting the stage for this new transition.
Great. Well, I mean, as you mentioned, you're excited to be there, but it's great. They're lucky to have you, and it's interesting that you talked about the band as part of the process. Tell me a little bit about, typically, obviously, a lot of the celebrity brands, it's in name only, but the band was part of the interview process. Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
I mean, they're really excited about this process. Lars is very much a person who wants to know the science behind things and understand what's happening with the process, and so. As far as that sonic enhancement goes, they're doing, subsonic, low megahertz that they're blasting the barrels with, and the band is picking their own soundtracks per batch. So every batch is, James will pick his set list for that sonic enhancement for whatever batch, and then after him it's Lars, and then Kirk and Robert, and so they all make their own. And Robert, he's the bass player, so he likes everything just really bass heavy, and that's just pummeling the hell out of it, And so it's I think it's pretty exciting just to see. They love putting their fingerprints on the process. They really enjoy that part. So they're very much involved.
Very cool. Well, listen, congrats again, man. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Yeah, of course.
Always a fan of yours. Like I said, as lucky as you are to be there, they're lucky to have you. So
yeah, very kind of you.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.